Welcome, lords and ladies, kings and queens, my noble court, to Cosmic Archive, a living legendarium of a million worlds. I am Lord Master Leonis, your humble scribe and archivist, curator of this fine establishment. Today, we're going to be reacting to a couple of videos. They'll be coming out throughout the week. The first one will be The Rift King, or Sin the Rift King, my bad. This is the lore video of the Gaming Syndicate. So we're going to be reacting to that. On to our second for this recording session. But, see, I had a video, I don't remember which one it was. It was a couple videos ago, at least. Gaming Syndicate mentioned that I don't ever seem to know his lore, but he has a lore video, so I could watch the lore video, find out, so here we are. As usual, we're going to do a minimal react and a maximal react. If you're on YouTube, you will not be getting the minimal react because YouTube does not like unpaused reacts. If you are on Rumble or you watch this on Kick, or sorry, not Kick. If you're on Rumble or you watch it on X, then it'll be the full video without any parts cut out. Like not a full raw, but just like the full normal edited video. All right, let's take a look. All right, interesting. So first impressions, it seems like the general gist of his lore is he was pretty much like a teenager, like a young teenager, and he lived in a chemist lab with his parents. Something went wrong. His parents gifted him the gas mask in an attempt to save his life. Whatever went wrong caused him to like break between realities or something. Like he's calling it the Rift King. So it sounds like he kind of like moves through universes or moves through realities. And it sounds like, and it even looks like initially he kind of viewed that as a curse, like something he really didn't want. But over time, he's kind of just become this powerful, near all-encompassing entity, less out of a desire to become it and more out of it just became a necessity for his continued existence or something. So that's my initial thoughts on that. We're of course going to watch this through again, and this time we're going to pause it a whole bunch and talk about individual bits, see if I can understand a bit more. I didn't pay super close attention to all the lyrics on the first run through, so we'll be doing that more for this maximal react because I want to try to make sure I can match lyrics to what I'm seeing on the screen in hopes of making sure I get a clear understanding of the lore that's being presented in front of me. It does seem like he moves through like entirely different universes or realities. His lore sounds very similar to my character's lore, which is that I basically live in the ether, which is a space between all the universes. So from Lore Master's point of view, the universes around him look like glass orbs with stars in them and galaxies and stuff. And his library is located inside the bell of a giant jellyfish. I want it to be a lion's mane jellyfish, but I can't get that to gen correctly. Might have to change it to another one just for imagery. But the jellyfish feeds off information and it puts feeder tentacles through, or feeder tendrils, whatever you want to call them. I don't know if they're called tentacles on jellyfish. And he moves through like the universes like they're incorporeal. And those incorporeal tendrils will eat the information from the universe. Interestingly enough, it doesn't take information out of people and things, but whatever it passes through, it learns everything about that thing's existence. So it learns about whole worlds and whatnot. This seems similar, but different. He doesn't seem like he has really a singular space that he calls his own. It's more like he's pulled and ripped between many different universes all the time. He has kingdoms, he has castles, he has thrones, but they're not all in the same place. He doesn't take the same form in every universe. So we'll look closer into that. It does kind of look like he might have a central throne room. There's definitely like a central tower where all this started. I'm not sure if he's able to go back to that or not. We'll see. Let's go for the maximal react now. So we see these glitch effects. We've got this bird here. I don't know if that's representative of anything, but the bird feathers look very crystalline. I'm wondering if this world is a very crystal heavy world. But we see right here that when the bird first comes up here, these crystals are blue and something happens and the crystals turn red. And I imagine that whatever's going on that messes everything up, because we then get this glitch effect. I imagine whatever's going on that messes everything up, this is emblematic of that. The crystals going from blue to red. And then we have like arcing red electricity coming out. It definitely looks like something's breaking. Okay, I wonder if that is something there, more than just an effect for the music, but the fact that the bird like moves forward, then moves backward, then moves forward. I wonder if that has an effect from what's going on in there. Then we get this image here. We get the idea of the chemist area. I said alchemist because I see a lot of like cogs and wheels, and it doesn't look steampunk. It looks like it's more powered by like electricity and runes, magic of some kind. And then I don't know what this is, but these look like miniature pipe organs almost. I'm not sure what these do. And then we have, okay, I think the idea here is we have Eustace here, Nux it looks like here, and I can't tell who here because it's too bright. I just see sort of like the ends of arms and legs here. I think the idea, we see blueprints and things hooked up to these. This might also be something, but I can't tell. I'm guessing based on what we saw earlier and the fact that he's the Rift King, these are different universes being observed inside of this laboratory. Maybe they're powered by this, I'm not sure. We got more rune stuff over here. Okay, and we see like a red surge of energy go through here. Neon tower scrape the sky. Neon tower scrape the sky. Cold embrace, little kid in the lab. Future's cold embrace. So from what I can tell, this is him as either like somewhere in like the 8 to 12 range, I would guess. He's probably young adolescent, it looks like. And I'm guessing this is his father. He's working on some kind of machine over here with all this different electricity. But he says here like little kid in the chemist lab or something. The lab, heart is racing. Yeah, little kid in the lab. At the chase, kid is racing at the chase. So we see here that as his father is working on whatever this is, something happens. Something goes wrong here. There's like a huge shakeup here where we get this blurry. Heart is racing. And it's like the machine explodes. So I guess that means that the story here is they were doing some kind of a project that was looking out into other universes. And this machine has something to do with that. And it breaks. And now that's going to have an effect, not just on the lab, but on other universes and whoever survives the lab incident, I'm guessing. At the chase, chemists built the impossible base. Chemists built the impossible base. Again, I assume this is his dad in this, because he mentions his parents earlier. Or not earlier, later. Built the impossible base, wires humming with the spark. I reached out, grabbed the core, ripped time apart. I reached out, grabbed the core, ripped time apart. So we're not really seeing that in the imagery. So what I'm guessing is that the core he's mentioning here has something to do with his mask. Because what we do see in the imagery before all of this is that this guy is giving him the mask, his signature mask that we're going to see on every form he takes from this point forward. So I'm guessing that either the lyrics or the visual are not completely perfectly accurate, and there's a version of the story where he hands him the mask and that's what explodes. I suppose we could say that he pulls the core out after this when what we're seeing is this. But he says he reached out and he grabbed the core, which like pulled it out of this machine that's in this tower. Or ripped time apart, a flash of light. And he says he ripped time apart. I'm curious if that means he actually damaged the timeline and split it into like multiple different timelines or something, or if that meant more like he split himself apart and now can exist in multiple timelines or something like that. But lyric wise, it sounds like the idea is prior to this moment, all the timelines he's involved with were a singular solid timeline, and once he pulled the core out of the machine, that changed. The timeline was ripped apart and became a multitude of timelines, a la the multiverse theory. The world was gone, echoes in my veins now, I'm a storm moving on. He says the world was gone, echoes in my veins now. So is the idea then that original timeline, is this kind of like Kingdom Hearts, where there was an original timeline and then it got split and ripped apart into a whole bunch of different worlds, and the original world doesn't exist anymore, and all that remains is the echoes in the few people who survived it? Is that the idea? In this case, he's the only one who survived his world's destruction, so his original timeline, he's the only one who remembers it. Nobody else even knows what his timeline is. No more safety in the stars, hunters in my path, one wrong step and the whole damn universe roars! Okay, so he says, no more safety among the stars, which insinuates he at one time did find safety among the stars. Maybe it was something he looked up at and was enthralled by. But then he says, hunters in my path, one wrong step and the whole damn universe falls. I don't know if this is his intention, but it makes me think of the Hounds of Tindalos, which I want to say is a Cthulhu mythos thing. But they're basically they're like time wraiths from the Marvel universe. They move through timelines and they hunt people who travel through time or jump between dimensions when they're not supposed to. I'm Sid, the Rift King, ruling what ain't been seen, jumping worlds like lightning, living every dream. So he says, "I'm Sin, the Rift King." What is this? Ruling what ain't been seen, jumping worlds. Ruling what ain't been seen. Like lightning. Dropping worlds like lightning. Living every dream. Living every dream. Okay. So I'm curious what the meaning behind that might be, on account of, like, he's saying he's ruling that which hasn't been seen, which leads me to believe he knows of places that very few do. He says dropping worlds like lightning, which leads me to believe that he's capable of destroying worlds if he sees fit. And then living every dream, which could go back to the multiverse idea, is like every potential concept of a universe that could exist, that he is able to enter any of them. Like in this universe, there's one thing off and it changed the timeline. Similar to how like Fallout is the exact same timeline as ours until like shortly after World War II. And then something happens that causes the US to embrace nuclear technology more in a civilian concept, and the entire world's timeline changes as a result of that. All the technology going forward doesn't develop the same way as it did in our world. I'm wondering if he's talking about something like that, like every little bit that could change a timeline off, he's able to go and experience all of those. Also, I want to point out, I think this is our first, well, it's not our first cameos. I mentioned Eustace and Nux earlier, but I know 3 of these cameos. This is Remy. This is Remy. I don't think Remy, this one is Tally, I'm pretty sure. Could be someone else, but I think it's Tally. Usually because these two, they have a lot of interaction on X. They're very similar individuals. They're both tieflings, like D&D tieflings. Remy talks a lot more about like her opinions on gaming and nerd spaces and the appropriateness of pandering to the male gaze. She believes that if it's a predominantly male space, then if you're designing women in that space, you should pander to the male gaze. Allie has sort of she posts like everyday bits where it's like, hey, we have a lot of adventures today. We made it like Wednesday, she'll say like, we made it halfway through the week. Friday, she'll say, you made it all the way through. The big thing I take away from Tally is that she works a regular job and also does DoorDash and like never takes a day off, which is bad for her. But she does what she has to do to pay for all of her bills and take care of her kid. This one is Vesper. That's her name. I don't know this one. I think I've seen this image. Vesper she's another creator that makes AI music videos, and a lot of hers are really good. She's been doing a lot of more Western style cartoon stuff, and she has a lot of different designs for her character. I think I've seen this one around, but I don't remember who she is off the top of my head. So unfortunately, we can look really quick actually and see if he does. Interesting. Eustace. He does say here, video done by Lyrical Absinthe with Grok, Vidu, Sea Dance. Music done by Pseudo, out from Kenny the Hound. He says, cameos in order are Eustace a Useful, Nux Taku, Leaflet Asari, which must also have been in that first room, I assume. Vesper Blackthorn is here? Did I miss Leaflet? Hold on. Was Leaflet in one of these shots of the universe at large? Down, grab the core, rip time apart, a flash of light, the world was gone, echoes in my veins now, I'm a storm moving on, no more safety. Yeah, I don't see her here, and she doesn't usually have like a techno background. In the stars, hunters in my path, one wrong step and the whole damn universe roars. In the stars, hunters in my path, one wrong step. This guy kind of looks like X-Cross Legends, but I'm guessing he's not. And the whole damn universe roars. Oh my god, there's a whole bunch of shots right here. Oh, is that just Lady Gaming Syndicate? Like he has a female form in one universe? Couple universes? See, again, the British flag. I don't know why, my guy, but I genuinely thought you were South African. I'm sorry if that's offensive. I apologize. I don't know what like pushed me that direction and made me think that was the case. I think the first video of yours I ever saw was your reaction to Crybrows. I don't think I've seen a lot of videos since, so I'm not sure what put me there, but I see a lot of the British flag in this, so I assume he's British. I'm just trying to see if I missed something in here. No. So then the only other place Leaflet could have been before all of that would have to have been this shot. Where they go into the... Oh, I should have gone back, not forward, okay. Okay, so I'm going to have to assume this is Leaflet here. as we move forward, I don't know what we can see. Oh yeah, that is leaflet. Okay. I did not catch that before. All right, back to where we're at with the throne room. So then, all right. He doesn't have a ton of them. Vesper, Exodust, and Revi the Tiefling. Those are the two I mentioned. Who is this one? Blue Pie Pie. Looks like she's got a lot of videos. Like, she looks like she's got some AI music videos on her channel, some reactions. Yeah, she seems primarily to be another AI music video artist. Like I said, I think I've seen her around. This one, Blue Pie Pie. I think I've seen her around, but I don't remember the name. So, hold on, we'll open this in a new tab so you guys can see the page. This is her. This is the work she does. I click on videos, a lot of AI music videos, and it looks like a few reactions here and there as well. So if that looks like something that would interest you, go ahead and check her out. Back to the Gaming Syndicate. Fantasy throne, traversing through every zone. Hold on, I think I missed a lyric. Fantasy throne. Fantasy Throne to bursting through every storm. This idea of a storm keeps coming up now. He's mentioned it twice. I'm still trying to make out whether this is like an idea of he is the storm as a result of what's happened to him. Because I can kind of distinctly see two versions here. Like I said earlier, either the timeline fully broke into a whole bunch of different ones, and as a last entity from the original timeline, he's able to access them all. Or something happened to him directly that resulted in him being able to access multiple universes. And I tend to think the latter makes more sense because it looked like they were observing universes prior to, or timelines prior to the accident. This fight scene is really sick. I just noticed ever since he got the mask, the eyes glow too. I wonder if, because I think the core he was talking about might have something to do with his mask. I wonder if that's like integrated into him now.
Commanding time and space, modern day came home.
Futuristic warlock, commanding time and space. See, so he just sort of rips into existence here. Again, this kind of makes me feel like he's the one who's had something happen to him, rather than the timeline splitting. I'm sure when he sees this react, he'll correct me if I'm wrong about that. Because like I said, the words did say the timeline ripped apart. So it might be that it's the timeline shattered and he can move between them because he's the only one left from the original timeline. That's actually an interesting thought, though. I love how he kind of made Skybrow's little library of stuff look like the TARDIS. I just noticed that. This is like Skybrow's as a Time Lord. Interesting, because I was about to mention Skybrow's kind of has his own like space station outside of time situation going on. That's the words I use for it. And in my Crybrow's react, he told me I was more or less correct. He's kind of got a space station outside of the normal flow of time in the universe where he observes things. He's like the creator. He is observing the universes he creates. So he already has sort of an outside of time existence to him. So I'm curious, like, he jumps in here. There's almost like two people in similar situation interacting with each other.
Me down, I'm slipping through the rift of time. Sin the Rift King, every time.
Sin the Rift King.
My regime.
Sin the Rift King, every timeline's my regime. So now I'm curious, because like he says something similar to this a few times, where it's like he effectively rules over every timeline because of what he is. This lends more to the timeline shattered and I'm the last being from the original and the only one capable of doing this. Either way, he is the last being from the original, or the last being, I guess, from his timeline. He does insinuate he can't go back to his timeline later, or he did insinuate that he couldn't go back to his timeline when he said the world is gone. Yeah, no, the more I think about it, I think my previous statement was wrong. I think the timeline shattered and his ability to move between timelines has to do with him being the only one left from the original universe.
Fantasy realms bow down when I raise the ancient blade. Sat on the throne of dragons, watch the king.
Fantasy realms bow down, sat on the ancient throne of dragons, watched their kingdoms
fade. Then I flip the switch back to common laser fire.
Then I flipped the switch back to common laser fire. So this is like describing him going from world to world and how vastly different the worlds are.
The future's army turn the battle. battlefields in the
Let the future zombie turn the battlefields into fire.
fire. From crystal castles to bullet trains, every world a battlefield, every
From crystal castles to bullet trains, every world
life
of
a game
battlefield,
of war.
every life, so every world of battlefield, every life a game. That would lead me to believe that he doesn't necessarily directly rule every timeline, and he may or may not have complete control over where he goes and when he goes there. With this sense that, like, he's so above it all because of what he is. Like, he can't really be permanently removed. Is this character sort of a type of immortal? Like, he can't really be killed properly because he's the last remnant of the first timeline, so he can't really be killed off. He's like a permanent fixture that can't go away. And so for him, every world is a game, because if he dies, he just gets back up again later, or he gets back up again in another universe.
Avoiding the end of time again and again.
Avoiding the end of time again and again. Oh, that leads me to believe that this may not be his intention, but I used to toy with a concept of, like, even if the timeline broke into like a million bajillion different things, there was a singular ending that every timeline inevitably was doomed to come to. And basically that ending was like the heat death of the universe, or just eventually everything ceases to be. So, but the way that I imagined it wasn't so much that each timeline or each world would come to its own end, but that there was an event that would be at the end of every single timeline. Basically, at the end of time, all the timelines converge back again into a singular timeline and exist that way for a very brief period before the final thing to happen ends all of time forever. I'm wondering if he's got a similar concept he's working in here, because he says he's avoiding the end of time again and again. So maybe he's able to move not just anywhere, but any time in the timelines, meaning he can move anywhere from that shared ending to just after the break, but he can't go back to the world that was.
Left my home in ashes, parents' gift became my curse, but
Okay, left my home in ashes, parents' gift became a curse. This is not the same place he was in before, right? Warning, containment breach. This mask is thrown away. I'm not sure what this image is trying to tell me. My guess is that this is what remains of the lab, but it looks much more futuristic, and the light coming in here, can't really see much up there, but that sort of coloring gives me a vibe of like a partially lit dystopian city. We have like a very modern trash can with papers and electronics, and this was like energy drinks or coffee or something, and motherboards. So my second guess is that within this lore of Sin the Rift King, Sin attempted to recreate the thing that broke the universe, or create like an anathema that would reverse it. And this was like the lab he was using to do that, and he's discarded this gas mask because it's an older version, or maybe it was an attempt to create another version of the one he has that couldn't do what it was meant to do. And the result of that is that he just tossed it away and discarded it.
curse, but I wear the scars like armor. Worst comes the worst. No home, no chains. Just the
See, here he says no home, no chains. So that's where I'm like, I see that he has throne rooms, but the way the music and the lyrics speak, it kind of sounds like he doesn't have a permanent domicile, which is unlike my character's backstory. So that again lends to the idea that he maybe doesn't have complete control over where he goes or when. Like, maybe he controls it mostly, but there's always a chance that the power he possesses to do that kind of activates on its own or goes somewhere that wasn't his intent or something like that. So what ends up happening is he can't really lay down permanent roots anywhere, because anytime he does, he's just gonna get ripped away from it. And then who knows how many eternities it'll take to get back to that specific spot. So he ends up just being really nomadic. But that doesn't really click as well with the concept of him being like the king or emperor over like every timeline. So I'm not sure. I'm kind of giving a little bit of Crosswire vibes on that one.
endless burn. I'm the kid who stole forever.
I'm the kid who stole forever. I'm the kid who stole forever. Now the multiverse learns. And in that image of I'm the kid who stole forever, he's like got all these clocks. Again, I'm guessing this is sort of like his space between spaces, like between the universes, and he's manipulating time. I wonder what these robot guys are. Oh, actually, no. So I'm going to go ahead and call them Hounds of Tindalos. I don't know if that's correct, but they have design similarity to the ones we saw at the beginning. So I'm going to call them Hounds of Tindalos. They're the hunters he mentioned. Some of them do kind of have like sort of ear-like bits coming out of their helmet, but most of them just look like robots. These are more akin to the Time Wraiths, I think, from Marvel in their appearance. But they've got, I said Marvel. I'm so dumb. Time Wraiths are not from Marvel. My bad. Time Wraiths are from DC. These things almost look elven in design. I wonder if there's like a long-lived race of elves or something that create these. Oh, that's an interesting image to put right there. So after all that defeat, we see this. We're seeing it in reverse now, but we see this. This kind of looks like almost like the universe gets crushed or just deleted, crushed into a giant black hole, something like that. He did say earlier that he drops timelines. So I wonder if this is what he's talking about. That this event here is, see, now what I'm thinking is he moves through timelines. He probably does do some either does or did do conquest. And that conquest led him to be noticed by the hunters, the hounds. And now they chase him everywhere. And whenever a timeline gets too corrupted by the hounds, he has to terminate it. I wonder if that's what's going on. That would be an interesting idea. So now we get to see like all the different versions of him that we've seen throughout the video, all in one big split screen. I like this too because I know that prior to One Sky, this design here with the black coat and the gold, I for one never saw that design prior to that. So I'm thinking that it wasn't there. I always saw this design, the hoodie with the glowing eyes and the glowing red gas mask. And in a lot of cameos, he appears like this prior to that. I'm pretty sure this specific design was something that Lady Wasabi gave him in her video to match him with the more dark universe that is the Louisverse. And he's just sort of owned it and run with it, and now he has it in a lot of his own media.
Screaming through the void, every universe.
See, now I wonder if this is what he's experiencing going places. This visual also kind of lends the idea that maybe he doesn't have complete control over where he goes. Like maybe he enters this slipstream and technically he could control wherever he goes, but it's very easy to miss a spot if you miss your intended exit point based on how you move through here. And then over here he says, screaming through the void. Screaming through the void, every universe trembling. Leads me to believe that as the last member of the original timeline, that maybe he's able to have an effect on all timelines at once, perhaps when he's in this space between spaces.
When I deploy, King and Commander Child.
Universe is trembling when I deploy. Okay. So this also shows something too. I feel like there's definitely gotta be like multiple arcs he goes through. And we obviously don't get to see that in great detail. This is a relatively short music video. But you see he's got this split here, and over here he kind of looks like sort of heavenly good king god emperor type, and over here he's like the dark overlord of the grungy dingy worlds all at the same time. And I'm curious if these two characters are just him at different points in his journey. So like I said earlier, you know, I don't even know like what journey this would be, because his journey starts with him as a kid. His parents, like it looks like his dad messed up with the machine, which as his dad realized it was about to break the timeline, his dad gave him the mask, which I'm guessing he gave him the mask and instructed him to remove the core. When that happened, his timeline shattered. He becomes all that's left of it. Everyone he ever knew and ever loved died in that moment. He will never get them back, but maybe he sees ghosts, echoes, versions of them. That would mess with your mind. Like if you see versions of the people you knew, the people you cared about, split across all these different timelines, and then you come to a place, you might go to a very dark place, and if you can't die, you can't be killed, the only thing that can really kill you are the hounds, and you succeed consistently in eliminating them, you very well could go through a stage where you are a dark, evil overlord, and maybe you're like a crime syndicate leader, pun intended. But then over time, you soften, you learn why it's important to care about the things your people care about, etc. And in time, you become the glorious Golden King. But that takes time for you to go through. It could even be vice versa, where he was a good king initially and a bunch of bad things happened to him, and he said, all right, you know what? Death to all of you then. But this looks like an arc that he goes through to me. The kid who broke the code, I own the past, the future, every timeline I wrote. That sounds more similar to Torstwolf's universe, where his library is within his mind and every universe in it is one he invented, he created. He's the creator of it. Similar to like Skybrowse, and he views the worlds he's created through his space station outside of time. But the visuals aren't matching up to that idea. He's much more directly involved in everything. The earlier part of the story that talks about the timeline breaking and him moving through it and conquering different timelines, leads me to believe that these are not necessarily worlds he wrote, but he might still feel like that because he's the last member of the original timeline. So he's all that's left of the timeline that authored every other timeline.
Turning back, no safe place left to hide. Set the rift gate. Watch the multiverse collide.
Okay, watch the multiverse collide. I did miss a chunk right here, though.
No turning back, no safe place left to
No turning back, no safe place left to hide. I wonder if this is a scene of him reincarnating in a female body and going, what the fuck just happened to me?
place left to hide.
Okay, no turning back, no safe place left to hide. I wonder if he's mentioning that, if that's like for him. Again, we have this sense of like he's being hunted throughout the timelines. I love this visual right here.
Watch the multiverse collide.
So this is Psychro and Kaya. Kaya is Hassan Watanabe's dog. I imagine most people know this by now, but the reason the dog has electro powers and stuff is because Hassan got a lot of flack for shock collaring his dog. I'm not sure why Leaflet kicks Psychro into the water here. This just seems like a goofy thing that got animated. Just to make sure I'm not losing anyone else. We saw Louisverse. We saw Skybrowse. The base Basilisk, of course. Ooh, cool Enjo. I thought, who are you? I missed you. Oh, okay. I did miss this. Earlier on, he was on, when he was talking about Fantasy Worlds, he was on a spider with a blonde girl. That's who this is. Yep, and then we have Psycho, Kaya, Leaflet again. Oh, Madbot Synthris. So he made the hunters. I'm calling them Hounds of Tindalos. They may not be. Okay, so he's got a YouTube channel, but he doesn't have anything up on the channel. So, he designed the hunters, it sounds like. The hunters that are hunting down Sin. There he is, arm wrestling with Nux. Oh, this is both Nihilith and Ando Zenoid in a singular image. This is Ando destroying a GameStop, it looks like, or maybe trying to prevent a GameStop from being destroyed. I can't quite tell. And then this is like Nihilith. It looks like this is Nihilith teaching him how to paint. I wonder if the idea is that Sin actually learned how to do a lot of his AI prompting and stuff from Nihilith, and he's putting it in here. I like that wording, from the cradle to the crown. Here we see him looking at the mask like it's something he maybe wants. We're back in the original timeline here. And now we have him here. I did know he actually has like a very, I don't know if that's like really British or more Italian, this design. I've seen it on like very similar designs for like Firenze and Fiore, but I think he's a Brit, so they're probably more British.
Never coming down.
Lightning has changed from blue to orange and is now much more agitated. so interesting to me because it's like she kicked Psychro off to take this spot, and it sounds like he's asking if he can fish here, and she's like, "Get away, loser." This kind of has, this purple here kind of has a sort of cosmic feel to it, like maybe these are stars or a cosmic timeline. All right, that was Sin the Rift King. So having done a more in-depth look at it, my guess to his lore now, I think some of it is pretty obvious. Obviously, he moves through timelines and maybe dimensions / universes. Different people kind of use the term timeline, dimension, universe interchangeably, so I'm not really sure. For me specifically, a universe is its own self-enclosed thing, and it has timelines that run inside of it. But then the universe is its own separate thing, and each universe has its own set of timelines. So in my mind, I demarcate universe, timeline, and dimension into very specific things. A dimension is like, it's like a bubble inside of a universe. That's like a weird reflection of the universe, the overall universe itself. It's like at a smaller scale. That's very much how I have it in my own story, but I don't know how other people necessarily view those terms. So I'm just going to use timeline here. The apparent things about his story are he is a ruler or a king of some kind in at least multiple timelines. So he says every timeline. I'm not 100% sure that's accurate to his actual lore, but at least he is ruler of many timelines. There is a group of hunters that hunt him. I am guessing that the hunters hunt him either because they view him as a cruel, tyrannical king, or they hunt him in the vein of the Hounds of Tindalos, where you are a time traveler moving between the different timelines, and you're not supposed to be able to do that, so you have to be destroyed to maintain the balance of the multiverse. Those are the clear pieces of his lore. Oh, I should say, not entirely. I think what's also clear is clearly his parents were chemists. There was a mistake in the lab. That mistake in the lab led to the nature of his ability to move through the universe, or move through timelines. So what's less clear, I'm leaning now towards the original timeline shattered. He's the last member, the last living entity of the original timeline, which is what gives him a nature capable of moving between timelines, or something. It might very well be the mask and the core that gives him the power to do that and protects him from being ripped into pieces like every other timeline. Ironically, it reminds me of Sonic Prime, that the Netflix show where they split the universe into like 20 different universes, and only Sonic and Shadow remained unaffected because Sonic was the one who shattered the crystal, and Shadow, I don't remember why Shadow wasn't affected actually, but I remember those two specifically did not get split into different versions of themselves across different realities. They were the only ones that stayed whole and the same. So similarly, Sin remains whole and the same, but the rest of the universe broke into multiple timelines. I'm leaning towards that, but there's also the possibility that it's him who was altered and the multiple timelines already existed, which the observations of the timelines prior to the breaking lends to that theory. So what's right? So I should put this all together in one thing. What is clear about his lore is that his parents ran a lab. He spent time in the lab. Some project his parents were working on broke. That resulted in the situation that allows him to move between timelines. Either he was altered or the timeline was shattered. Whichever case it may be, he is now able to move through timelines. He committed conquest in multiple timelines. He is hunted by some group of hunters. I'm guessing either they don't like him as a ruler or they're like the Hounds of Tindalos. His nature can alter based off the timeline he's in, including getting gender swapped, it looked like. What's less clear about his lore is the nature of the alteration. If the alteration nature is he was altered because of the mask and the core he removed, the timeline was shattered, or a combination of both. What's also less clear is what parts of his story are in different arcs of his existence. So, for example, has he been hunted from the beginning, or did the hunters only take notice of him after he did something? For example, conquering multiple timelines. He says in the song that he's the king of all the timelines. He's the Rift King, he's the ruler, all the timelines belong to him, which leads me to believe that in his present state, he believes that the timelines are rightfully belong to him, perhaps because he is the last member of the original timeline. I think a lot more lends to that theory, despite the one-off image at the beginning. But if that's the case, it would also make sense that the hunters are the result of, basically the hunters see it as like he's a megalomaniac and we have to stop him from imbalancing the universe. I'm also not really sure like where he's going, or if the rulership of the timeline is a phase he went through. If maybe there's a point where he was clearly king and ruler over places. Maybe it depends what universe he's in. Like maybe the hunters have a greater presence in certain universes, so he doesn't really get to operate like a king in those universes. Despite believing himself rightfully the king, he can't operate like it because he has to slink into the shadows and hide and stay away from the hunters. So I'm not sure, but that is my general take on the lore of Gaming Syndicate. It is a very cool story. I love multiverse stories. I love timeline splitting apart stories. Those are some of my favorites. The idea that you can move so thoroughly between fantasy and science fiction and steampunk and solar punk, etc., and experience all these different versions of reality. That's always been my favorite. Like a core character who's just kind of caught in between it all in one way or another. And maybe that was another thing that's not entirely clear in his lore. Does he have complete control, like perfect control over where he goes and when, or is he to some degree at least sort of forced to deal with the whims of the universe he's in? But yeah, this is definitely my favorite kind of multiverse story, like with a split apart timeline or the split apart universe and the one guy left from the original who's trying to put it all back together. You could do so much with that. That guy can be a villain and your heroes are actually someone from one of the split off multiverses. And what he wants to do seems good to him, but to the people of the worlds that exist now, you're basically saying, I'm going to destroy your entire reality, which obviously is not okay. So it's, or he could be the hero. Here, he definitely seems to take the protagonistic role in the storytelling. We see the reason we should be emotionally invested in him is the story of him losing everything at the beginning. And then, so now he's trying to be king over all the timelines, I guess. But this is really cool. I really like this. You guys really kicked ass at the song. Lyrical Absinthe did the video, it sounds like, and him and Kenny the Hound did the music with Suno. So I'm guessing that probably the lyrics are the more accurate portrayal of the story then, in which case that also again lends to the timeline shattering and him being the last member of the original timeline. But yeah, if you see this sin, let me know what you think and let me know where I'm wrong. I imagine I'm not entirely correct about this one. That's pretty much all there is to say. So until next time, my curious scholars, bye bye.